All right, great. So I see more people are jumping in. What I'll do, I'll queue in Zara. You can be able to start. Then I think we will kind of go on with this as we go on. I think she has the agenda or how the whole meetup will go on. Q&A will kind of be at the very end, and if possible, you can mute yourself so that we don't kind of disrupt the flow to a certain extent. But Zara, please go on. Welcome.
Amazing. Yes, I will quickly share my screen. Apologies now. Oh, just want to make sure that everyone can see everything. Now, is everyone able to see my screen okay? Amazing. Perfect. So yeah, so as Mark and Anis had said, we're going to give a brief introduction, I suppose, into observability. Obviously we're from Datadog, so we will be focusing on our experience from Datadog. Mine is not as experienced as obviously Anna's with 7 years in engineering, but I will do my best to help as well. So our topic today is enhancing observability. So with an introduction to Datadog with practical insights. And I think Anis is going to touch on some really cool African customer stories, which hopefully you know some of these names. So our agenda for today is an introduction to Datadog, a demo and success stories, which Anis will be running, and then a Q&A at the end. As Mark said, feel free to come off put on your mic at any time. Also, I'll be looking at the chat, so hopefully I can get back to any questions that are there also. So I suppose we've already done a very brief introduction, but as we said, we both cover the African market. So yep, we can jump past this one very quickly. So to begin, what is observability and why is it important? So as you guys know, I know you are fairly new in your AWS journey and everything else, but observability is the ability to measure the internal states of a system by examining its outputs in the context of software and IT infrastructure. It refers to the practices, tools, and methodologies used to collect and analyze the data about the system's operations, performance, and health. I'm not sure what methodologies you guys all tend to lean towards, but observability is a key component across each one. So the three main key components are obviously logs, metrics, and traces. Oh. Now, so this is just a very brief history of data or the innovation of Datadog. So we began back in 2010 with a real-time unified platform focusing on observability and infrastructure in 2012. As you can see, we have branched into a lot more products, which we do not need to touch on, but this kind of just shows the rapid expansion of the DevOps world. So Datadog is a Gartner recognized. So we are the leader in the Gartner 2023 Magic Quadrant for APM and observability for the third consecutive year. So you can obviously see some other big names up there, which are all great tools and help in the DevOps world. So yeah, Datadog solves for complexity. So here, I think the main thing when we speak about observability is the importance to see into everything. So the multiple data sources, logs, metrics, traces, the activity, multiple integrations that we're seeing across many different environments. So another real cool thing that Anis is going to show when we move to demo is the dashboards, which is huge. And I think it'll be really cool for you guys to see. So I think the important thing about observability, obviously we're focusing on the DevOps side of things, but it's important for everyone across the entire organization, from security, support, business. Those C-levels also need that observability into what's happening to make sure the business is working towards its goals. So these are just some of I suppose Datadog's differentiators. We won't touch on them too much, but unified observability, which is obviously the main topic of today. So the observability, as we said, is important for everyone across the organization. Cloud agnostic, so modern stacks deployed everywhere. So on-prem, hybrid cloud, ease of use, the logging without limits, superior granularity, and data-driven actionable alerting. So this is probably a slide that I'm hoping you'll see some names that ring a bell. So here's some really big African customers who use Datadog, and that has helped them scale. So Flutterwave, Paystack, Sterling, everyone. So yeah, if you guys have any questions about those particular use cases, we're more than happy to help. I think the important thing about today's topic, observability, is, as you can see from these big names, it's important across many different industries. But yeah, so we're going to see the demo now. So I'm going to pass it over to Anis. But yeah.
Yes, and maybe before the demo, let's take a quick step back, Zara, before I share my screen and show the platform. So again, the software industry it evolved a lot in this last couple of years. We were speaking about a release every quarter, every year. Now, it's maybe multiple daily deployments. We transitioned it from, big batches of software to more like containers, microservices, making sure that rather than spending maybe 3 months doing QA after the release, before the release, sorry, now it is integrated automated testing, automated security test as well. So that evolution was driven as well by the business, because I guess everyone in here is using probably a mobile application for money purposes, or for paying bills, or for making, buying goods, different kind of services. Today, like, the technology aspect is present in every kind of business. We hear legal tech, we hear fintech, we hear martech. So it is very important, back to the subject and observability, it is very important as engineers, as also departments heads, as team leads, to understand the complexity of our systems, to understand what's happening, to understand how my application are performing. And that is very important, because if you don't have, let's imagine the scenario, or if you don't have that understanding, if you don't have that observability, I mean, so what? Basically, you will run blind. You won't be able, as an engineer, to scale up, scale down your infrastructure if you have, let's say, a spike during a holiday season, if you are a fintech company, for example. Or you won't be able to focus on what matters. You will spend all your time on unplanned work, on outages, on disruptions that you don't even know what is happening here, guys. So there is that. And third, back to the business, I mean, if you don't have an idea how to scale up your systems, how to make sure that your infrastructure is smooth, up and running, how to make sure as your user is having a good experience on your endpoints, on your mobile application, for example, on your web platform. If you don't have that ability, you will have customers moving to another competitor. You have now, today, the users having high standards. So what we're going to speak about today is why observability is important in IT. We say the complexity, the multiple interactions with the production environment, the complexities around the system. We highlighted if there is no observability, what's going to happen. And then from, let's say, an expected outcomes of having all my systems end-to-end visible, I can predict bugs, outages, crashes before it happens. I am able to understand my system, optimize performance, optimize probably costs, security, and then at the end of the day, ensure that IT is ready to help the business scale. Because from an engineer, from a junior level engineer, from an intern until the last person leading the entire engineering team, the idea is all to provide business to the value stream of the business, to provide value, to the business, and make sure you help have good customers, happy customers, and you can retain them on your platforms. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and go directly to the platform that we're speaking about. Is there any questions before I start on what we said so far with Zara? I take the silence as a no. Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat. Yeah, go ahead, Zara.
Quick, Anis, I just think when you move to the demo, if you can zoom in, just conscious that some people might be looking on their phones, or
sure.
Much better.
I'll make sure to zoom in if I look into really specific areas of the platform. But again, this is like a brief introduction. I'm not gonna run a 1 hour demo for a specific use case. It will be a brief introduction on the observability side that Zara highlighted, you know, how I can get my traces, my metrics, my logs, so I can have end-to-end visibility for my application to be performing well. First of all, any engineer will be dealing with dashboards in his life sooner or later. Dashboards from different, you know, tools, from different interfaces, just trying to understand what's happening. What we hear a lot before people migrating to Datadog, let me walk you through the problem we solve, is, for example, I can use this tool for this use case. I can use this other tool for the logs. I can probably leverage an open source 2-3 other tools for the application performance, and I will end up managing a complex system with a complex system to maintain. I remember Robbie from South Africa, an incredible SRE that I worked with. He told me that they upgraded like their stack, their monitoring stack, and they lost all the alerts. They spent 3 weeks rebuilding all of these alerts. And again, as an engineer, you need to protect your time. You need to make sure that your time is building features, making sure, again, the business is performing well, is helping it scale. So what I'm sharing here is a dashboard. It's an e-commerce application that I'm having in the backend. Datadog, again, it's a full stack observability and security platform. We cover a lot of use cases. I will walk you through key ones that we see a lot. And then if you have any questions, I'll try to get you the answer. Of course, if I don't have the answer, I will reach out with the answer afterwards. So yeah, again, this is a dashboard that I built for my e-commerce application. I'm like an engineer that are gonna start using the platform very fast. I can understand what's happening because everything is in there. So from any service level agreement that I have, I want all my services to be up and running 100%. I can see, for example, this is a critical service. It's a web store, so it's a critical service. I can see very fast what kind of alerts, what kind of warning. I can even create business metrics that help me understand how IT is driving business at the moment, what kind of impact of an operational outage. Very fast, I can drill down to go to the APM, to the request, to the latency, to the infrastructure metrics, to the logs, etc., etc. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the AWS environments, the serverless, the Lambda functions, real user monitoring. We spoke about, you know, the UX performance. Again, I'm not going to go through all the use cases, but what I wanted to show here is within the same dashboard, I am able to correlate data from different sources. We saw applications, we saw infrastructure, we saw the logs, we saw some service level agreements, some service level objectives, some business KPIs. I put them all together within the same place. And ideally, if I am an engineer, I can put it on a TV mode or have it on my computer. So very fast, I understand the health of my systems. Again, the idea here is that we predict outages before happening. We make sure that our systems are visible. And even when outages happens, it's not that bad. We work on a blameless culture. We are up and running in 2 minutes. And even the customer is like impressed by the results, you know, our status page. What are we doing in terms of project, in terms of infrastructure? Usually the question here comes with, okay, I have this beautiful dashboard, Anis, but how can I get all of this data? You know, how I can collect the data. For example, let's take the example of an AWS environment, how I can get the data and put it on the platform so I can have that level of understanding from the dashboards. So for that, again, we try to make it as easy as possible to migrate to the platform so you can, our goal is that you spend time on what matters. You spend less time, for example, if you are a DevOps engineer blaming the application teams. You spend less time, for example, if you're a network engineer blaming the SRE. You spend less time, firefighting during outages and more time building and creating value. Back to the time, which is, I will speak a lot about the time, by the way, because it's one of the most important assets in this life, according to my point of view. And as engineers, you gotta be protecting your time. So speaking about the time to value, we have over 700 out-of-the-box integration. I'm not gonna walk through all the technologies, but back to the subject that software evolved, we see companies using a lot of technologies, not one database technologies, not one cloud provider sometimes, not only one availability zones. And they're doing that to also keep up with the market change so they can also be adaptable. And what we did at Datadog is that we tried to make it as easy as possible to get the data into the platform. So you have over 700 out-of-the-box integration. You're looking here at different ones from databases, from infrastructures. You will see even also some CI/CD providers, different kind of integrations. I'm not again gonna walk you through all of them, but what I wanted to say is, regardless of the technology that you're using, we will have a way, let's say, to get the data as easy as possible and make sure we give you as much granularity as possible. Because again, as engineers, you want to have, yes, high level understanding, but you want to go into the details. You want to go into the metric. So let's take the example of the AWS integration. I'm sorry. Over here, we're gonna put our AWS account and we're gonna collect a couple hundreds of metrics, as well as the logs, of course, something very important to understand why our systems are failing. I get, for example, once I install my AWS integration, I'll be having assets such as, dashboards, such as this AWS overview. So I don't start from scratch. Again, the idea is, rather than spending 3 weeks building alerts and building dashboards, in some couple of clicks, you are able to provide on demand your manager, your business, with the kind of dashboards and visualization they want to see. So you see here an example of an out-of-the-box dashboard that you can clone and pretty much drag and drop mechanism create some dashboards. Again, I'm happy to answer any question on the go. Feel free to drop them in the chat. What I wanted to show as well is the fact that, of course, once you have that integration up and running, once you'll be also to install a lightweight agent into your servers, your hosts, your different instances, you are able to see the health of your infrastructure. Back again, I want to make sure at the end of the day that my applications, that my infrastructure is highly performing, it is secure, it is reliable, and it is as well supporting the business growth. So I can go in here, see a lot of hosts that I have on the demo environment. You can group them. You can say, hey, I want to focus on my production environment. I can see over here, there is a high CPU utilization host, very fast. As you can see, in a few clicks, I can understand what's happening. I can open a relevant dashboard for that particular host and see exactly what happened in this particular, let's say, EC2 instance. Let's say it can be a container as well. So not only you will have the view from a host map perspective, but also the containers to have an idea, especially on containerized environment, leveraging Docker, Kubernetes, ECS, etc., etc. Again, we said that, okay, from an infrastructure perspective, I am able to see how my servers, how my hosts, how my EC2 instances, how my containers are performing. But one challenge that we see is that software engineers are requesting more visibility into their systems, into their code, into their environment. Why? They want to deliver software with a better quality. They want to get more ownership. They want to get also involved in building that value for the business. And the answer to that, back to the complexity issue, I'm having a lot of application. I don't know how my application are related to each other. The answer to that is, for example, this map that is mapping all my services. Again, we're speaking here about an e-commerce application, so you'll see relevant terms such as the web store, such as an authentication system, I am able to see all of my applications, databases, APIs, what's happening in there, what kind of metrics I have. I can go into particular aspects, I remember when I was an engineer, process engineer, that's how it's related to DevOps. When there is an issue, I usually go the stairs up in the production line. I go the stairs up and I look I try to take a step back. What are the inputs? What are the outputs? And in IT, you cannot do that because it is very complex or it is very abstract that you need at a certain point to understand what are the dependencies of the system to make sure it doesn't crash, or make sure if there is an outage, it doesn't impact the whole system. It doesn't impact your customers. So you can see here the dependency, the upstream, downstream dependencies. You are able to see your particular service, how it is performing, if there are any spikes in the errors. And something here very important is, again, we're talking here about the web store. So I'm curious to know if my requests are going through, if there are any errors, if there are any issues. And I need that unified platform that Zara spoke about. So I don't, for example, look at the trace here and then look for the infrastructure in another tool and then go get the logs on the other side and try to spend time to correlate all of that information. And maybe in the meantime, something else can happen. So rather than doing all of that, let's say, manual correlation or manual time spent on non-value activities, you are able to, for example, see the particular request. You can, in few clicks, go to the errors. If there are any related logs, and I will get back to the logs, if there are any SQL queries. So I don't need to get, I see maybe there is a question. Yeah, thanks, Zara, for calling that out. So again, I am able to see the end-to-end request, understand what's happening in my system, and without the need to go in extra or further tools, you are able to get the related logs, to get the related metrics. And again, it's been years since I didn't code, and I'm able to see the platform and understand what's happening. So imagine having an experienced DevOps with this kind of capabilities. I'm sure that he will protect his time. Again, the most valuable asset. We have a question here. Hybrid environment that include AWS services and premise infrastructure unified. Absolutely. That's a great question, Caleb. Thank you for that. So you highlighted, first of all, the hybrid environments. So what I see in hybrid environments, there are some regulatory, let's say there are some compliance environment, highly regulated, that is requesting, for example, that your data, that your customer details, that your credit card details stay within the country. That's why a lot of financial services companies are today leveraging hybrid environments. What I see from a hybrid environment challenges is sometimes there are tools that are adapted for on-premise systems, let's call them, it's old school tools that are only giving basic level of visibility only on the infrastructure on-premise. And then there are a lot of good tools today with the cloud, including Datadog, that gives that visibility as well on the cloud. But the key problem here is we're going to have, again, two tools, we're going to have that silos. I cannot understand what's happening, what are the dependencies between my on-premise and cloud system. The unified platform will help here, for example, as I'm showing the infrastructure, will help say, okay, I want to see all my infrastructure according to the region. I want to focus on my production environment. I want to see how's my US West hosts are performing. I can see the tags, I can see the applications very fast without the need to go from the other tool to the other one to understand what's happening. So that's how I would answer your question. All right. So we went over the infrastructure. We went over the applications. Of course, there is, again, software evolving. I am not capable anymore to to hear by my heart the number of programming languages out there or the number of databases out there. But again, since it is built for this kind of challenges, you'll be able also to see different kind of information on databases, different kind of database, different kind of technologies. It is really agnostic. And again, we provide all of these capabilities from dashboards, from alerts that I'm going to touch base on, etc., etc. I have a question. Yeah, there is Zara summarizing over here. Awesome. Now let's go to the logs, our third pillar of observability. The logs. So during my last
Anis?
6 months, yeah.
Sorry, we have one quick question.
Yes.
About integrations with various cloud services. Is it possible for a user to create their own custom integration, or are we only limited to what Datadog provides out of the box? If so, how does one go about creating one?
I can answer your question partially, and the complete answer I can get it afterwards. Please connect with us on LinkedIn. I can get the complete answer. So if my understanding is correct, you want to understand if I can send data to Datadog for a different way than the integration. First of all, for example, if you have a particular server, VM, etc., that is using an operating system, if you have a container, containerized environment, Kubernetes environment, you can also, I recommend every time installing the agent to get that further granularity, and we can get the data into the platform. Second, you have the API, so you can send also the logs and collect the logs or collect other type of data and custom metrics through the API. Building an integration, I'm not sure. I need to ask about that, but I mean, those are almost plus 700 out of the box integration. There are even niche technologies that are existing in these integrations. There are also marketplace integrations that I didn't touch base on, but those are the three kind of ways that I think I can answer the question. So if again you can leverage the agent, open source piece of software to fetch the data and get it into the platform, and then you'll have also the API, etc., etc. Data sovereignty, where the data sit. Great question. Yeah, I'm not gonna do the very commercial answer, but think about it as we monitor a lot of financial services out there in the industry that we made it a priority, the data sovereignty. And by the way, the platform itself does security as well. So of course, we're going to be certified, all kind of certification. You are able also, if you're looking to further protection the data, you can use the sensitive data scanner as well. On that subject, we're really investing in a lot. On touching base on security, because it's a subject that I love. With the platform itself, you are able, to get insights into your cloud security, into your misconfiguration. If you have any compliance framework, such as PCI DSS, we see it a lot, SOC 2, ISO, you are able, since we're gonna get the AWS metrics from that AWS integration, within one click, you can integrate security and you can have an idea, okay, how is my infrastructure performing compared to regulations and standards. You can have an idea on the signals and classify the severity and understand what's happening from a security perspective as well. Logs, something that I didn't touch base on, and that I have bad souvenirs actually with logs. At a certain, yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying, no, keep going. If there's any more questions, I'll let you know.
Yes, please. And thank you all for the participation. Please keep it up. So back to the logs. Remember, guys, we said that it was process engineer. So we have also, of course, semi-automated machines. These machines will be also producing logs. And you don't want to see logs on a log terminal without any search or filter capabilities. Because if the machine is doing millions of products per day, guess the number of logs that is generating per day. Or if, let's say, an infrastructure that is handling millions of users or even thousands of users, guess the number of logs that are the engineers are supposed to, to understand, so they can optimize, so they can, during incidents, that blameless culture runs really fast. We are agile. We make sure that our systems are up and running, and even if we go down, we fix it really fast. So the logs, long story short, you don't want to see logs on a terminal without any search capabilities. Here I'm looking at 8 million logs. So imagine myself scrolling into 8 million logs and understanding exactly what's happening. So it's not a way to go with the logs. Something important is the facets. So I can very fast click on my web store. Let's say I want to see the error and the warning logs. Well, I am optimizing. I am about 1,000 of logs, but still, it's a lot. So what I can do here is, well, different options, but I can, for example, group them by pattern. So we will be grouping the logs with their similarities, and rather than spending, again, let's say the time, the most important asset that we have, on analyzing millions of logs, I am able to get through a couple of patterns, understand what's happening, and I can directly say, okay, this log, this aspect correlated with this trace, correlated with this metric. I need to focus on there. I will solve the problem. Something that I want to touch base on, even though it wasn't in the agenda, but I want to speak about. Let me see. Learning resources and materials, significant difficulties. What can we speak about? 100. Okay, 100%. I mean, from a learning perspective, what you can leverage is we have like the foundation enablement. We have different courses, as well as there is also the different webinars that we do on a weekly basis. We have different certification. If you're seeking to learn Datadog on a specific use case that you don't find, let's say, a video about it, there is also the documentation. Of course, it's very rich, but let us know. We are there. We are there we are here for that. We are here to orient you. We are here to help you out. We are here, to give about it. But the learning resources, again, as Zara mentioned it, I'll potentially transfer the feedback. Kamar, if you're hearing us from the enablement, we need more enablement. We need further given further for the community as well, from a videos perspective, and also from a local references perspective. And with Zara, we'll make sure to transfer the feedback and also work on our end on creating some videos for the community as well to understand Datadog.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I just want to cut in there, Anis, very quickly. And just on that point, I'll share it with Mark. I'm not sure if there's a way we can send a group email out after this with those free resources. But we also have a really good 8-minute video that is up to date, that was just recently done, and a security walkthrough that could be super beneficial for you guys. But Peter had put in a question just beforehand. He just wanted to ask, can one filter alerts or customize them to go to specific teams or people or Slack? So are you able to talk about the alerting? Yes, I know you do.
And I love all the questions, by the way. I love the challenge with Prometheus. Great platform. Happy to talk you through the different resources that we have, and also help you identify, areas from a differentiated perspective. From resources, I will make sure to pass the information 100%. I personally created a podcast. I did only one episode about it on Datadog. I'll try to make sure also to make more episodes, so you guys have more resources and more, let's say, relevant, especially African references out there. On the alerting side, so if I understand the question, are there plans for Datadog to support? I will get back to your questions up. So from an alerting perspective, that was the subject that I wanted to touch base on. What we see the challenge actually out there is, let's say, okay, you took a good example. Let's say I started my journey with Prometheus, Grafana. I added some other tools out there from the open source community, and then got started to do some maybe centralization with another tool. And then the alerts, you're going to receive alerts from A, B, C, D. You're not going to be focusing on what's most critical, let's say, to solve. We're gonna be seeing alert fatigue. You don't want to receive an alert, or if you're watching your favorite video on YouTube on the weekend saying, hey, this system might be done, and then you go into the platform and it's just like an outdated, useless system. You want to be alerted on only what matters. So what we do, again, back to the fact that you don't start from scratch. For every kind of integration, you have a lot of template alerts that you can use. Back to your question, so if I'm creating a simple monitor over here, let's say I want to configure to who this alert will go. First of all, I can give context to my alert. Second, through integrations that we touch base on, we were going to have integrations with Slack. We're going to have integration with Teams. Let me take the Slack example. We're going to be having webhooks that you want to send an SMS notification for the most critical systems. You're going to have as well the possibility to send a simple email. So you have different kind of system that you can leverage to have a multi-channel alert, and even you have workflows to make sure their alert goes to the right system, to the right person with the right context. Just to finish with alerts, you can even do forecast monitors, which will analyze some patterns and help you be proactive. That prediction of, the outages before your customer does. And you can even, I don't want to be alerted only if A is triggered or only if B is triggered. I want to be alerted when both my alerts are triggered. So I focus on what matters. Let's see some questions. I remember there is a question about on-premise systems. Yes, we definitely support on-premise system. As I mentioned, you have the agent over here. A lot of banks in Africa have a huge footprint on the on-premise part, and I think Zara can agree. We work with these banks. They are leveraging Datadog as not only an observability system, but also we see a lot of use cases around SIEM. The simple answer to you, Zab and Frank, since you have the agent, you're able to integrate that agent and install it within your server, within your VM. We even connect with limited connectivity environments. We know that is a challenge for banks as well. Sometimes there are some couple of really critical aspects of the infrastructure that they don't want to expose. So if you have a database, once you're going to install the integration and change the YAML file, you'll be able also to get the information on your on-premise database. If you want to go to see the query level insights, you are able as well to go in there and see query level insights, even of your on-premise databases. What encryption use to protect log data in transit and at rest? This is a question that I can answer later, because I want to look into documentation. I don't want to give you a non-accurate question. I love it because, again, I come from cryptography environment. So I'll look into the answer for you, Caleb, and for sure I'll connect with you on LinkedIn, send you the particular answer. Let me put it over here in my notes so I don't forget it. Any other question for maybe, wrapping it up? Again, you'll have the ability as well, more on real use cases. I didn't forget you. We're gonna wrap it up. We're gonna speak about real use cases. Just to finish, we spoke about the fact that software evolved and we want to make sure that the testing happen early enough in the software development lifecycle so I don't push into production non-performant code. We also speak about the customer experience and how every one of you, I'm sure that he uses one of the application out there, and we're not patient as users and as a generation, So it's very important for the software teams and the QA teams especially to do different type of tests. So you can also have these test results within the platform. You can also, for example, if you have a mobile application, you can have an idea on the real user monitoring, on what's happening exactly on my UX side, so I can optimize that performance as well. Does Datadog have an integration tracing for AWS Lambda function? Yes, of course. By the way, when you install the AWS integration, all kind of integration related to AWS will be installed. For the Lambda, of course, we have an integration. Hopefully, I have something to show. Maybe a dashboard about Lambda functions. Let me see. Yes, so you can see over here, this is an out-of-the-box dashboard that comes with that integration. And then for the Lambda Datadog monitoring, let me send you a documentation. It's better, I think, than going through all the steps, even though, I mean, I think it's as easy as having the AWS integration up and running, and then you enable the metric collection on the Lambda. So you have the documentation over there. No, sorry, I sent it to Mark. Let me send it to everyone about how you can monitor your Lambda functions. All right. So, any other questions from the audience here?
Anis, I know we're coming up onto the end of time. As I mentioned at the beginning of the call, I do not have a developer background like Anis. So I know for me, when I joined, I was definitely curious because I know obviously in Africa, there were some really good questions about a hybrid environment, and typically startups do tend to have that hybrid environment and then look to scale. So I suppose maybe one question would be if you could talk through a customer that did go to Datadog, join Datadog, and then in a scale up kind or a startup kind of scenario, what the infrastructure and challenges they were facing, and then how Datadog was able to help them scale.
I mean,
I think that would be really good.
I'm very happy to call out one of the two persons that really I had the chance to collaborate with, Daniel and Peter, both really incredible site reliability engineers. Well, the story behind, regardless of the beautiful words that we see here, the story behind is Fairmoney in Nigeria is a company that is exponentially growing. Meaning they hired the entire site reliability engineering team, they changed the engineering leadership, they want to move fast, they want to innovate, they want to make sure their payment system and their POS system are up and running. And what happened is that when the SRE team joined it and started to structure, we found a lot of time lost in, hey, I'm switching between, I'm not going to say the names of the tools, but I'm switching between, let's say, open source 1 and open source 2. And at the end of the day, I'm not getting the information that I need. Today, the customers were complaining before maybe I get the information about a slow system. I want to be proactive. So what we've seen as initiatives and priorities with that extremely talented leadership is, hey guys, we want to have visibility into the state of our applications. Not only our applications, but the underlying cloud hosts and multi-cloud environment that they are carrying this how we call these critical applications. We want also to get the logs, so we make sure that we have that end-to-end visibility. And when a problem happens, we are very fast able to get that up and running. We went, for example, from mean time to resolve and detect issues from 35 minutes, 36 minutes, which is a great start, to be honest, to 3 minutes. Meaning their customers are having their higher availability on their platform. Now we work also on certain aspects of code performance optimization. We see that a lot. We need to optimize performance, code performance, because as an African scale-up, I don't want to spend a lot on costs, you know. And there is also the operational efficiency, of course. If you're relying on one ecosystem and everyone in the company, that's why I showed actually the time bank, the time bank case, because if they have 250 engineers on the platform, everyone will speak the same language. You know, everyone will have the same reference. And that's extremely important, not only for huge companies, but even from scale-ups, from startups. You know, we need to have that same level of communications, the same level of understanding, everyone have that visibility. So we make sure, again, as a DevOps people, that are evolving and getting our careers done and going to seniors and making ourselves develop. I see some questions. I think we have a startup plan. Essentially, if we can give you an access on that startup plan. It has its limitation, but you can leverage for up to 5 hosts on the infrastructure side. We can share that link definitely with the community. Again, yes, Datadog, it's a SaaS platform, but we are also investing in open source in the sense that in standards. So yes, in the sense that OpenTelemetry, for example, collection, big subject today. We want to make sure that we have a standard collection of our metrics and our logs. Datadog today have support for OpenTelemetry, and very soon the agent that I spoke about will have an OpenTelemetry collector embedded in there. So, I mean, Mark, to be honest, I love the questions. I love the interactivity. I love the energy. Again, as mentioned by Zara, we'll be more than happy, to follow up with resources to answer your questions. I will drop over here maybe the LinkedIn the LinkedIn profile. Feel free to connect, ask your questions, make sure that we answer those questions. And if we don't have the answer, we will ask our engineering team as well for deep level insights, so we can provide you with the most accurate answer.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. Maybe a quick question. I saw your dashboard. I think the first dashboard you showed us, and being an engineer, most of my dashboards don't have like a dollar sign on it unless it's an AWS billing thing. So I saw like part of it, like you had sales for over $2 million and stuff like that. I was kind of curious. I don't know, maybe I was kind of curious how Datadog does that, or how does that kind of do that?
Well, I think I can answer it's a great observation that has actually 2 topics. The first one, how I can get this custom metrics. So you have this metric explorer, you can create all kind of custom metrics from the different basic metrics that you're gonna have from the granularity as well. So you can relate also, for example, if you are monitoring your checkout service, if the checkout service, that per customer X dollar are spent, on average, you can have an average and create that particular metric from different kind of calculation. That's from a custom metric perspective. There is a second thing that you said, Mark. Hey, we're all engineers and we're on a goal, all face something that is called budgets, that is called costs, that is called, hey, guys, you have a test environment on AWS spinning up hundreds of hosts every day. What's the story, So for that as well, we thought about it in the sense that it is very important, as you highlighted, Mark, to have an idea on your different spend trends, how your resources are spending, from a cloud cost perspective, from an infrastructure cost perspective, so you can analyze, optimize, and make sure the business has more profitability as well on that aspect.
Great, thank you. That's been really awesome. Wow, I think that's been a really cool session to see and actually to kind of demystify Datadog a lot. So that's been really awesome. I don't know if there are any more questions there, but thank you guys for coming through. I don't know how many people have had dinner already or are about to have dinner. Maybe I'll ask, how many people already had dinner? If you had dinner, you can just put a +1. I don't know.
I can put a -1. I'm
Negative.
still on my breakfast. I'm still on my breakfast.
Okay. +1. Kefa's already had dinner. Okay, good for you.
Awesome.
Most people have had dinner. Okay, it's only me. Okay. Maybe there's a question there. There's any discounts for students? Oh, 0, Frank, I guess. No.
Frank, I think we're both at 0 still. We need to eat something after this.
Yeah.
I see some -1 also.
Okay, great. I'll stop recording because this is pretty much banter. So